Hey, this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of The Contrarian. If it's Monday, it must be Pablo Torre. Pablo,
It's been a weekend, Jen. It's been a weekend. It's been a year of a weekend. Happy to be back.
exactly, in more ways than one. And for sports fans, it's like it's all there. There's too much to watch, and that's why I am like one of those flies with my multi-screen on the TV, and meaning I have an attention span of nothing. Um, let's talk baseball.
Yeah.
What is your take on, first of all, a really extraordinary phenomenon? We have never had anyone like Ohtani in baseball, or at least not since Babe Ruth. Talk to us a little bit about a game in which he hit three home runs and had 10 strikeouts. That's like superhuman stuff.
Yeah, it's the greatest game I think that's ever been played in the national pastime. I am a Yankee apologist, Jen. You know this
Yes.
about me.
Yes.
Otani is doing things that Babe Ruth could only dream of. This game, in which he does exactly what you describe, is the best pitcher and the best hitter, is an echo, of course, of what he had proven already to us, which is that he can be that over the course of a single season, both at the same time. But to do it in the postseason is where, we always talk about this. What happens under pressure? What happens when a guy who was never allowed to be in the postseason because the team was so bad in Anaheim slash the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim organization finally gets to be there. And the Dodgers, your Dodgers, it is unfair. I want our federal investigation into how this is possible that the Dodgers not just have are not just throwing out Ohtani, it's this pitching staff, which is doing stuff that we just don't see in baseball anymore. I mean, the Ohtani thing, greatest game ever. The pitching staff of the Dodgers as a generation are truly so dominant that it is turning back the clock to an era when, starting pitchers used to pitch complete games and used to be dominant before the era of relievers being in everything in the
Exactly.
postseason. So it's all unnerving to watch.
Exactly. Now, on the other side of the ledger, Dodgers, of course, won in a sweep. We have the full seven games for the Mariners and Toronto, which is kind of what every baseball fan loves. There's nothing like game seven. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on and this kind of real underdog status that the Mariners have, given they've never been to a World Series.
Yeah. So I was talking to a couple Mariners friends of mine, fan friends of mine, and they were never so confident as to think that this was obviously going to happen, even when they were leading in the series against the Blue Jays, who came out of the AL East, of course, and beat everybody up. Um, the Mariners fans carry around with them the traumas of decades. They are truly singular in their impotence when it comes to the World Series. So the fact that we have a game seven, the fact that these games have been close, the fact that Vlad Guerrero Jr., who is, himself a child of baseball immortality, Vlad Guerrero Sr., one of the all-time great sluggers, the fact that the Blue Jays might yet again take what the Mariners and their fan base have long, long been waiting for. It feels cruel. I hope the Mariners do it. I really do. I think Dodgers Mariners is the ultimate in that David Goliath kind of setup, which we talked about the last time we got together. But the Blue Jays are a really good team, and they might just inflict yet more generational trauma upon Seattle.
Exactly. You know, the lineup, the matchup rather actually kind of defies the normal conventional wisdom that you have to have the Yankees or you have to have one of the other major, big city teams with these long legacies. If the teams are great, there's great baseball. People will watch.
Yeah, and look, game seven is the ultimate recipe for viewership and entertainment. I say this a lot. When you have humiliation truly on the line, when you have stakes that are the highest possible caliber, you have a game seven. I mean, it's It's the best because you'll see teams do things that they just won't do. You'll see guys who are kind of hurt play. You'll see strategies that will throw everything, yeah, out on the field. So it's a special thing. I don't take it for granted.
Absolutely. And playoff baseball, and particularly a seventh game, has something that a normal baseball game doesn't. Baseball has a laconic pace. It's the summer sport. You can watch for a few innings, you can wander away, you can go to the concession stand and come back after an inning. You haven't missed all that. What is missing during the regular season is this intensity of every pitch, every moment, which builds and builds. And that is extraordinary. That kind of tension you don't really get during the regular season.
Yes, baseball being a sport without a clock, by the way, right?
Yes.
Game seven, you hear something even more terrifying ticking, right? You sense the end right at your
Yes.
doorstep, and that tension, you're so right. Baseball goes from this ultra marathon in which there are way too many games to keep track of to suddenly what feels like a sprint. And now we're near the end of the race, and it really doesn't get better than a game seven.
Absolutely. So let's go from the sublime to the ridiculous. Belichick and North Carolina.
Yeah.
They are managing to lose to anyone, to everyone. What are the boosters going to put up with? I mean, are they going to ride this all the way to the bottom? What's going on?
That is a real thought experiment that I try to engage in with all of these stories that I've been doing lately, where it's like, if you want to end the experiment, you can. It's just that I think people have sunk so much cost into them that they're trying to figure out, can we escape? Can we minimize the PR damage? But what happened, I mean, on Friday, is that I released a new chapter in our investigation into Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson and North Carolina. And simultaneously, North Carolina goes cross country to your neck of the woods. They go to play Cal. And what happens is they lose in a super painful, embarrassing way, as is familiar to fans of Bill Belichick's North Carolina administration. And simultaneously, what I'm reporting is that during the weeks before the season opener, which was a blowout loss to TCU, their general manager, the highest paid general manager in college football, one of the highest paid employees in the state of North Carolina, public employees, who makes $1.5 million a year. Bill Belichick, reminder, makes $10 million a year. Michael Lombardi, the GM, goes to Saudi Arabia to try and fundraise. And so you're already just seeing both whiffs of desperation that are reflected on the field, but then you're also getting this dystopian future of college sports in the same breath. I mean, this is college sports, ostensibly the thing that is the hardest to reconcile with the idea of we're just going to take Saudi Arabian money, like all of these other sports have started doing. It's almost a parody of itself, but it's
Yes.
also the tip of the iceberg because in this whole power dynamic, there's Michael Lombardi running football, doing stuff like that, failing miserably. And then, of course, there's Jordan Hudson, and we find, longer story, too long to summarize, but we get footage from one of the shows that Bill Belichick was co-hosting that was supposed to be relaunched at North Carolina, was never launched because the team was so bad on the field. But you get the experience of what it's like to be in a room with Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick and the utter disdain and condescension that they have towards the people who are there to do their jobs, the producers, the graphics editors on this show that they worked on together that Jordan Hudson took control of. So all of it is not just ridiculous, it is really, really, really unsustainable is how I see it, but we'll see how long they sustain.
And it really is like live golf meets the college football. It is bad enough that we now have investment firms, that these cliques of American investors and fans have kind of bought into it. But we're now going to have college sports controlled by foreign governments? That just seems a step too far.
And so North Carolina, I mean, when I reported this, they scrambled and they began to spin it, and they are currently saying this is their position. The invitation came from a Saudi national who's a big fan of North Carolina, and that there was no deal brokered. Now, I ask anybody with a pulse, why would you go over there if you were not interested in getting the money? Who said no? My investigation continues into that front. But I just got to reiterate, this is not merely a college program. This is a public university using
Exactly.
taxpayer money to pay for its largesse, now saying we need more, let's go to Saudi Arabia. And so I'm numb to a lot. I just don't think we should be numb to that particular dynamic. Public university, authoritarian state, and Bill Belichick somewhere in between.
Speaking of the Middle East, something else bizarre happened, which was the head of FIFA, another lovely organization, shows up in Gaza for the talks. What was that all about?
Yeah, you got to understand that FIFA, Gianni Infantino, who's the head of FIFA, he has been really, really close, seemingly by design, to Donald Trump. And we say this, I think, pretty clearly in these conversations. FIFA is famously corrupt. Donald Trump also. And in that, there is a partnership. And so why is Johnny Infantino there? Because, well, he says he's there because football is the world sport and blah, 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 blah. In reality, it just seems clear that this is an ongoing geopolitical quid pro quo in which FIFA, serving as a geopolitical power broker in real ways, right? Funneling money to and from various states under the guise of sport, has realized it's good business to be around the stuff the president is doing. And the fact that it's happening in and around the Middle East and what's horrifyingly happening in Gaza, it's a Mad Lib, Jen. We're living in the era of a dystopian Mad Lib.
It really is. And you kind of wonder what we're going to see there if the fighting ever stops. The Trump FIFA resort hotel on the coast of Gaza. I mean, there is no bottom, there's no shame,
No.
there's no limit to what these people will do. And that's what gives you a full-time job. Speaking of your full-time job, what is going on with Steve Ballmer, Leonard, and
Yeah.
the Clippers?
Yeah, so the Wall Street Journal has entered the fray. I've said for a
Yes.
long time, really since September when I dropped my first week of September when I dropped episode one, part one of this investigation, which is endless, that the water is warm. Other outlets, please come on in. There's plenty to investigate, to find out.
Yes.
It's a fascinating story. The Wall Street Journal is now in the pool. And the story itself, there's again too much to summarize, but the thing that I will pull out for the attention of your audience is that they kind of buried something that I have been circling for now months. Because again, I spent 7 months before I did part one, and I've been trying to nail this down. And the Wall Street Journal kind of drops it midway through the piece. And I don't totally understand if they understand what they have reported because I'm so deep in the lore and the back and forth and what Steve Ballmer has claimed. But just to recap, Steve Ballmer has claimed to ESPN on national television that aspiration came to him for an introduction to Kawhi Leonard. And he says that he can produce an email as if an email alone in a vacuum is certainly the only thing that ever would have happened in terms of a communication between these two parties. The email indicates, apparently, according to Steve Ballmer, that Aspiration asked him for the intro to Kawhi, and then they did whatever it is they did, and the Clippers had no idea what it is they did. I reported, of course, what they did was a $48 million cap circumvention deal, which is record-breaking and unprecedented in the history of professional sports. What the Wall Street Journal buried halfway through their piece, I'll just quote it here, is this, quote, in December of 2021, Joe Sandberg, this is the co-founder of Aspiration, told a high-ranking Aspiration executive that the Clippers had approached him about doing a deal with Leonard, their injured star. The executive recalled Sandberg saying, quote, this is important to the Clippers, end quote. And so, what the Wall Street Journal has done, in whatever it is fashion that they decided to do it, is truly provide a missing piece from, and again, this is the Journal. I'm not involved in their reporting, but they have found something that I consider incredibly important in the
Yes.
story of what happened here and why. And I wonder what the NBA, Wachtell Lipton, the investigating firm, the outside counsel, I wonder what they're all going to do with that bit of information.
Right. Now, maybe Sandberg will say, "Oh, I was just saying that because I wanted it to seem more attractive that we were being sought after." There could be other explanations, but it seems to be that is the nub of the entire issue. If the Clippers went to them and came up with this really remarkable deal, then other than evasion of the salary cap, what else would be the explanation of the deal? That's kind of the whole enchiladas.
Well, and the enchilada was, an hour and a half with Mark Cuban last week,
Oh,
or the week before
yes.
last now, I suppose, I forget. But he came into studio, we debated at length, and should you be the kind of person whose kink is watching Mark Cuban defend Steve Ballmer, I have the episode for you. I ask everybody, why was this deal never announced? Why and how was this arrangement constructed in a way that can only, according to my reporting, be explained through a side deal for cap circumvention? And I have yet to get a satisfactory answer, but you've identified it. Look, as certainly all the president's men has indicated the key question, which is
Well,
what did you know and when did you know it? And this is yet another log on the fire that says
exactly.
Steve Ballmer knew a lot more a lot earlier than he has been telling people. And now there are various contradictions on the public record.
Well, being a billionaire, I'm sure that Mark Cuban reads the Wall Street Journal. So perhaps he will find new revelations that will persuade him.
Perhaps.
We have yet to see that, but be that as it may. So let's end with some college football. You have one incredibly dominant team, Ohio State, which could probably compete in the NFL at some level. And then you have a lot of teams that ordinarily don't appear in the top 10. Indiana,
Yeah.
Georgia Tech. Now, some of those you can say, well, they haven't played anybody really big. But on the other hand, they haven't lost. And some other really big teams have lost. So what's going on? Is there a kind of parity developing, or is this just a kind of a fluke period before the real competition gets underway?
So Ohio State, I think, is very clearly the best team, and they deserve the credit that comes with that. But the era that we're living in now, the era of NIL, the transfer portal, just the economy, in all the
Yeah.
ways you've been alluding to, just radically changing all at once, sort of gradually, then all at once, and still today, as new rules and rulings from the courts are unlocking pots of money that can now be brought out into the sunlight, ostensibly. What you're seeing is that the advantages that have been these almost hereditary inheritances that the
Yes.
SEC, for instance, even the Big Ten, there was always like a series of programs that were big brands that ruled over everything. Indiana, to me, is an incredibly interesting
Yeah.
case study because they have this coach, Kurt Signetti, who has been recruited now by everyone else. Penn State, for instance, would love to have him as their coach. But Indiana, by the way, with some help from boosters who understand this landscape, like Mark Cuban, in fact. Mark Cuban's a big Indiana booster. They are paying to a degree that keeps Indiana competitive with Penn State. Indiana
Yeah.
used to be a doormat. Penn State, of course, one of the all-time programs in sports history. And Indiana is basically saying, we will pay our head coach like the richest programs in the country. We will fund the budget for our roster, the NIL and transfer portal budget. We will fund that in a way that competes with anybody. And because money is, of course, it's always about following the money. If you follow it, you'll see how much more is going to Indiana, and paying players on the books has enabled a parity in a pretty meaningful way. Like you have lesser teams that are now saying we can hang with the biggest names in college football.
Now, if you had to look back over the last 10 or 15 years in college football, two teams would regularly appear, Florida and Florida State. And they are in deep, deep trouble. And one of them, perhaps not the one you thought, fired their coach.
Yeah.
What is happening in Florida?
Yeah. One of the cradles of college football recruiting, by the way, is Florida. So many great players come out of there. You'd think, again, that regionally speaking, these teams would be set up to always contend. Now, the pipeline, the networks are you can pay those players to disperse across the country. You could pay great Florida prospects to go to Indiana. Florida, though, having turned over their head coach, now trying to hire. A modern figure who can steer them through all of this? Um, it's a fascinating question. Again, one of these, hey, here's a public school trying to figure out how important is this program to our desires, our needs as a state. And I would venture to say that, I mean, look, Florida State and Florida, both different, but also united in this kind of manic need to win. And I would say that that is going to be something that absolutely gets reflected in the answer to all your problems. The answer to all your questions will be more money. And so
Yes.
just watch this space to see how much they're going to spend.
Absolutely. Well, we are entering a period in the fall in which if you like basketball, you got basketball. If you like pro football, you got pro football. If you like college football, you got it. If you like hockey, that's coming too. If you like European soccer, that's already there. So it really is a sports fan's dream. And I continue to be amazed on a Saturday when there aren't 5 or 6 games on. They're like 14 games on. You really can't keep up.
Oh my gosh, it's all happening. It's like an
Yes.
equinox. It's sort of like everything, all the shadows are being cast. Um,
Yes.
and and it's what's great about sports is
Right.
that there is so much to keep track of. And in that
Yes.
way, it reflects as you started this conversation, it reflects our attention span. We're sort of
Yes.
flitting between a zillion things on a zillion screens, but I'm looking forward to game seven. I'm looking forward
Absolutely. That's
to
where the whole
watching
screen unto
that.
itself. Yes, there are single screen events, we'll call them, and that is one of them.
May
Uh,
we all create single screen events every now and again. Yes, exactly right.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back next week, we will be most likely in the middle of the World Series. And it's going to be whoever wins on the AL side. It's going to be really wonderful. So we will look forward to that. And we will look forward to, you have a lot of investigative reporting going
Yes.
on. So somebody like the New York Times should give you a job. Oh, that's right. They did. They did. They hired you. Actually, they didn't
Yeah.
give you a job. They're distributing the industry that is Pablo Torre of investigative behemoth that strides across the
It,
sports playbook.
it, it's a thing where, and I, of course, deeply respect what you've built, where you can do something independently, but then be, I think, needed enough such that one of these other institutions are like, maybe we should begin to pay attention to what they're doing over there.
Yes,
And so, in that
exactly.
way, I'm glad to be in this partnership with the New York Times, and I look forward to what the Mad Lib that is the sports playbook of 2025 is going to bring us next Monday.
Absolutely. Have a great week, Pablo. We'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Jen.